my coffee, a splash of cream, and no sugar in my pretty cup. Okay, the sauerkraut is doing fine. I already burped it once, but here you can see there is no mold, and it's still bubbling, but very slowly. I've already let the gas out though. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on this, let it continue along, and as you can see, there are some drips from the gases. It does dribble down the side when I open it up, which is fine. This has got a long way to go yet, but that's an update. So let's take my coffee and go and check my seed. Okay, and here is my avocado forest. This is the crazy lady trying to grow avocados in Ontario. They're growing just fine, and I will probably continue to allow them to grow, at least for this summer. After that, I have no idea what I'll do with them, because I'm certainly not going to bring them indoors at the rate they're growing. So they will be allowed to grow for this year, and then see what happens from there. I'm going to bring you up to date here on my pepper plants. As you can see, they're doing quite nicely. They do need to be kept outdoors as much as possible, so I am bringing them inside at night because it's still too cold for them. But well, we want them to get stronger and more sturdy. But they're doing very well. These are the first that I planted because I want to give them as much growing season as possible. So then I guess what I have here are some Brussels sprouts doing beautifully in these little pods, and they're ready to be transplanted as well. So we'll get those done. And I have also planted some German chamomile because I would like some chamomile tea. I purchased some chamomile tea from the store this last little while, and it was terrible. No flavor, no aroma, so it must have been very old. So I've decided that that I would grow it myself and see if I can get a better harvest than what was available. The other thing I have done is taken a lot of cuttings. I really love to do cuttings and grow plants from cuttings. It's how you get many plants from one without an exorbitant cost. And this is all lavender. Most of them are doing fine. And once again, they need to be brought indoors at night yet and outside during the day, so I'm doing that little job these days. Another thing that is doing extremely well is my basil. So I've got 10 little pots of basil that, if each one of these plants was separated into individual plants, I have grown them 3 feet tall in the past doing that. I don't know whether I'll separate each little pod this year, because I may just leave them each one individually, or each little pod as is. Next thing that's doing quite well is my grape tomatoes. Unfortunately, I have some of these little things, too many seeds have grown in one little packet, so either I will destroy some of these plants, or I will try to separate them and grow them, and I think I will try and separate them and grow them all. The other thing that's doing extremely well right now is my San Marzano tomatoes. These are a much sturdier tomato in growing than the grape tomatoes. The grape tomatoes look very delicate, but they do grow extremely tall, whereas the San Marzano are a much tougher and hardier plant, but they both produce quite a lot of fruit and both do very well. So I'm not unhappy with either one of these. They're doing fine. They just, once again, it's time for these babies all to be transplanted and put into cups where they have plenty of soil. And here I have more transplants. Once again, these are all lavender here. I have one rosemary here. And this container is full of sage. Now the sage has been, these are little cuttings. These taller ones that you see here are from seed. So I have both versions. The seed grew a little bit leggy, so I thought I would try to take more cuttings and put them in here as well. So we'll see how those do. I'm sure they'll all do fine. These fellows are ready to be put in pots with some real soil. The thing with these little pellets is they're great for starting seeds, but they don't have any nutrients. So when a plant gets its second leaves, they really should be moved out of those pots and into something where they get some soil and some nutrients. Now, my very large pots where I had the mother sage plant is that one there. That's the one I took all the cuttings from. Is doing quite nicely. The lavender, for some reason, did quite well until the spring, and now it seems to be dying, so it's good that I took all the cuttings that I did, so I'll be able to replace that as soon as they get a little bit larger. And these pots are filled with garlic that I planted in the fall, and the garlic is coming up quite nicely. So that is some of the plants that I already have growing, and these are fine outside all spring. I don't have to move them. The garlic should be ready sometime late summer or early summer actually. So they're doing quite well right now. I'm quite pleased with the results of that garlic. And here is my crazy sweet potato farm. I have so many potato slips, more than I'll ever need, but it just keeps putting them out and I just keep letting them do so. Hopefully some of them will survive long enough to put them in the ground. Oh, and the other thing that I planted this year, didn't know if it would make it or not, but ginger in a pot, and it's starting to do quite nicely. So of course when the weather allows, this will be outside, but for now it's on a window ledge. And the bay laurel trees that were infested with fungus gnats when I bought them have now been mostly, the fungus gnats have mostly been eliminated. I do have a yellow sticky tab and it seems to have caught one fungus gnat, but that's just as a precaution. The soil is no longer crawling and they seem to be thriving quite nicely. And I've repotted all three of them in nice little pots, and so far so good. I'm quite happy. Unfortunately, these things grow so slowly that it'll take a long time before I can harvest bay leaves from these trees myself. I've also ordered seeds just in case these fellows don't survive, and I'm still waiting for the company to call me to tell me that the seeds are ready, whether for pickup or for delivery. So that is the update on my little plant. And just going through my seed stash, I can see that this is bean seeds that I saved from year to year, and I thought that I wouldn't get any last year, and fortunately I found those, but then I managed to get quite a few last year, so I have more than enough bean seed to start a bean forest here. Pumpkin seed that I saved from pumpkins. And here is, oh yes, cantaloupe that I saved from the fruit. I did plant cantaloupe last year. The fruit was beautiful and saved seed from it. And here is I call it a cherry tomato, but that's my grape tomato, and I saved that year after year after year, so I have This is from 2015 apparently. And I probably have a number of versions of grape tomato. Okay, these are from last year's 220, and I did replant some of these, so I'm fine. I probably used the latest version, but I still saved them. And parsley, that was from parsley that I grew as well. Now parsley is it grows 2 years. The first year is harvestable, the second year it goes to seed. So it's not really all that edible the second year, but if you leave it, it will go to seed. And you can plant them every year, so you have 1 year that goes to seed, the other year that you actually harvest. Sage from my sage plants. And San Marzanos. But I also have a whole bunch of seeds that I purchased. There's some rosemary, some lettuce, which I have yet to plant, pickling cucumbers, which I have started, rutabaga, which I have started. Okay, and some shepherd peppers. That's what I planted outside there. I have some spinach that I'd like to plant, some radishes, some sunflowers, more lettuce, some turnip, the Brussels sprouts, which I did plant, the sweet basil, which I did plant. Now pumpkin, well, we'll see what happens with the pumpkin. That takes up a lot of space. Swiss chard, some beets that I'd like to plant, and I have already started the broccoli. Oh, and here's another packet of the pickling cucumbers, just from a different seed company. And there is my German chamomile that I purchased from a special herb spot. So, lots and lots still yet to do. I realize now, going through all this, that that I'm missing some seeds, so I have to locate them. Yes, the seeds that I'm missing are English peas, which I have saved, and I have an idea where they are, so I'll have to locate them and put them with this bunch. I don't know why they were separated. But, as you can see, there's lots and lots and lots of gardening to do.